BionicDance is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Now, I've been told many times here on YouTube and elsewhere that faith, referring to my faith as a Christian, is a great cop-out. That faith and reason are somehow diametrically opposed to one another. And that atheists don't have faith, they merely lack a faith in God.
What atheists lack is a belief in God. It's faith that allows that belief to exist despite the lack of evidence for God's existence. But hey, why split hairs? Mostly because it allows us to communicate accurately and keeps us from playing word games that don't actually address the other person's position. With that in mind, let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Today we're talking to, well, this guy. Don't really know his name. Guess I'll call him Mr. Linkowski, because his channel's called Linkowski Family. His video is about how atheists have faith, presumably to get us to shut up about theists having it. But his reasoning is more than a little flawed. So, let's get to it.
But what we're going to find out is that they do have faith, and although they say assume nothing, they have faith in what is called philosophical naturalism, which basically says nature is all that there is.
First of all, telling atheists what we believe and why, that's a paddlin'. Second, I can't speak for everybody, but if I were to say that nature is all that there is, I'd have some pretty good reasons for it, mostly because nature is all that we've ever found. And believe me, we've looked. My mind is open to the idea, but unless you're prepared to show, not hypothesize, not philosophize, but actually show that there is more to existence than nature, show it the same way we can show the various elements of nature, then behaving as if nature is all there is can be justified. But if you're going to say that there is more, you'd better be prepared to back that up with something more than just words.
Methodological naturalists limit their scientific research to the study of natural causes because any attempts to define causal relationships with the supernatural are never fruitful and result in the creation of scientific dead ends and God-of-the-gaps type hypotheses. To avoid these traps, scientists assume that all causes are empirical and naturalistic, which means they can be measured, quantified, and studied methodically. So with methodological naturalism, you're allowing only natural causation in your scientific inquiry, in your investigations.
Can you give a rational reason to do otherwise? If what we're trying to study is not empirical, cannot be measured or quantified, then how do we know we're not deluded, mistaken, or just thinking wishfully? If we cannot measure, if we cannot experiment, then how can we verify our conclusions? Then the only difference between that and playing make-believe is that the people who are pretending know they're doing it.
And that's fine when you're working in the lab. I mean, when I was getting my chemistry degree, I was not trying to think of possible supernatural causes for the compound that I had just made in a test tube.
And yet, creationists would argue that the compound and the natural processes that allowed it to be made were all created by God, even though they've never been able to prove it. So what I'm hearing is a deliberate partitioning of the thinking process, if not actual hypocrisy. If you're going to claim that God built the universe, then claim you're not going to even consider finding supernatural causes in a lab, you're deliberately picking and choosing what's convenient to believe in certain circumstances.
But here is where methodological naturalism merges with philosophical naturalism. It is when a person is employing methodological naturalism to find all truth, to find ultimate truth. When you do that, you're assuming that all truth is natural or naturally caused. Therefore, assuming that nature is all that there is. There's that word again, assuming.
I take issue with your use of the word truth. It's far too slippery. Truth can be used to mean things other than facts about reality. Some would say that there is such a thing as, for example, moral truth. But morality is a social convention. It's a thing of the mind, and thus subjective. And that's not what we're talking about when we discuss the existence of things external to the mind, things which would exist even if there were no minds to think of them. What we're actually after are facts. Facts require evidence which can be shown to other people before claiming that something is real with any legitimacy, and there is no evidence for God. It's quite reasonable to say that the Abrahamic God, at the very least, has been designed to be something which cannot be proved, indeed should not be proved. This is only reinforced by the claim that belief without proof, faith, is necessary lest one be punished. Non-belief is one of the things that makes God really cranky, and then he does his best to hide his existence. Either God is made up or God is an asshole. Pick one.
This is where science meets up with religiosity. This is where their so-called reason meets with faith.
You do realize that this argument doesn't really help your case at all, right? I mean, basically what you're saying is that we're just as bad as you are. You're not saying that you have good reasons to believe what you do, only that ours are shitty too.
And so within science, where you have all sorts of gaps, they fill it in with naturalistic assumptions.
No. If science is being done correctly, gaps don't get filled in with anything other than evidence. At most, they might get a hypothesis bookmark placed over them, but those are, by definition, temporary, pending new info. If the supernatural were somehow encountered, scientists would investigate it. But so far, pretty much every supernatural claim has either been debunked as frauds, cannot be shown to be anything but myth or superstition, or proved to have entirely natural causes which were misinterpreted by the witnesses. As more and more of the universe is studied, the supernatural becomes less and less necessary to explain the workings of the universe, which should suggest something to you.
When it comes to ages of rocks and age of the universe and interpretation of the fossil record and all sorts of other things where they're trying to seek after where everything came from, the origin of all things and the origin of man, etc., all sorts of assumptions are made.
Even if this is true, it happens on both sides. The difference being that scientists will challenge their assumptions, test their hypotheses, reconfirm evidence and data, then give it all to other people to have it all tested again, the peer review process, all to make sure that what they've done is accurate. That's kind of the opposite of making assumptions. Meanwhile, religious people, if experience is any indication, will make assumptions that just feel right to them, and then stick to them like glue no matter what. Obviously, that doesn't describe all theists, but it certainly applies to a depressingly large number of them.
We all have the same evidence, and all of us reason beyond that evidence to something ultimate.
And some of us go beyond mere reason into empirical testing, and that seems to work so much better at discovering how the universe works than philosophy all by itself. I could prove anything using reason alone, so long as nobody ever decided to test what I'd said in the real world.
Well, some people say that it's uncaused nature that's ultimate, and some people say that it's an uncaused, transcendent, infinite God that caused everything, that is ultimate.
And which of those two claims has the most evidence backing it up? Which has the least? Which one requires faith, and which one is actually being investigated by people who want to know the truth, rather than those who've just decided that it is and are satisfied with faith? I'll give you two guesses. Bet you get it wrong on the first try.
So basically, questions that I have for this type of person: can you prove that methodological naturalism is capable of finding all truth?
I really don't care. I'm not after truth, I'm after facts. If it cannot be shown to be the case, then I have no reason to suspect that it is the case, and that pretty much requires that an empirical method be employed to discover whether or not it is so. I would have to turn this question around on you and ask whether philosophical naturalism can prove a damn thing about the external world in any reliable way without employing methodological naturalism.
I'm also wondering how people can sort of put down other people that have faith when you yourself have faith.
Well, I don't have faith. But even if I did, I think I've already explained it. Some people have faith and figure that's enough, while others actually go snooping around to see whether they've got everything right or not. If you're going to shut your brain down that much, just go with the first thing that feels right to you and not investigate. I feel perfectly justified in putting you down, 'cause, frankly, that's dipshitical. And I'm spent. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think. Hey, this is a nice computer you got over here. Be a shame you didn't subscribe to BionicDance. I'd hate for something bad to happen to it.